When the pizza activity is initialized, of course, its onCreate method gets called, and we're going to use this to set up the text-to-speech engine for use in this app. So after inflating the GUI, which we do here at line 86, we start at line 89 creating the new object of class text to speech, and the constructor takes two arguments. The first is this and represents the context in which the text to speech engine will be used, this activity, and recall that activity is a subclass of context. And then the second argument is the onInit listener that will be invoked once the text to speech engine has been initialized, and this allows us to then do some additional configuration as well. So when the onInit method of the onInit listener gets called, it will then at line 97 specify the spoken language that we'll be using with the text-to-speech engine, and it does support several spoken languages. Supplying the argument locale.us indicates that we want to use US English, and there are other languages, for example, like Spanish and UK English, etc. If you want to be absolutely sure that a particular language is supported, you can call the text-to-speech engine's method named isLanguageSupported and pass in the locale constant for a given language. Now, it is also possible to use other text-to-speech engines to support languages that are not by default provided with Android. At line 101 through 110, we also set up the text-to-speech engine's onUtterance-completed listener, and this will be invoked when the TTS engine, the text-to-speech engine, finishes speaking some text that you submit to its speak method. So when the onUtterance completed event handler gets called, we're simply going to call our own method utterance completed, which we'll look at in a subsequent video, and the main reason we separated that into another method is just to keep the code as readable as possible. Now, after configuring the language and the onUtterance completed listener, we call our own method playFirstMessage, which is going to welcome the user to the pizza ordering app. And finally, down at the bottom of our onCreate method, we have a few other things that we do for initializing the app. At lines 119 and 120, we create a hash map called TTS params, which is the parameters to the text-to-speech engine. This object is going to be supplied as the second argument to the text-to-speech engine's speak method every time we call it. And the purpose of this is to ensure that the onUtterance completed listener gets called. And the way we do that is by putting a key into this hash map, specifically this key, the key param utterance ID, and you must put it in with a non-empty string value to ensure that the onUtterance completed method gets called. This value will be passed into the event listener so that we can determine what text was just finished being spoken by the text-to-speech engine. And if you supply different values for this key, then you can use if-else logic to determine which message was just finished speaking, and then use that to do different things within your app. Now, in addition, we also set the initial values for a couple of our instance variables. Current message index helps us figure out which array element in an array of strings is going to represent the next message to speak. Waiting for response is initially false because we're not waiting for the user at this moment to speak to the app. And we also get the message text view from our layout so that we can display text there. And finally, we call our own method loadResources, which we'll look at in a subsequent video, which is going to load up a bunch of the string resources and assign them to various instance variables declared at the beginning of this class.